Video log 2 of converting the Seraph Sisterhood mech to use Light My Bricks lighting. So in my overview, I talked a bit about how I thought I would start with the weapons. As part of that, I actually did end up redesigning the main cannons. If you're curious, these cannons have gone through a couple redesigns. They started off really stubby, got lots of T-Rex comments, so I made it this longer version, but I'm still never really happy with it. These little parts here, which is this little, I can't remember if this is called like an engine brick or something, but it's basically a modified brick with studs on a lot of sides, is how I was accomplishing kind of a lot of snot work. But the little, see their part just already fell off of it. The little parts that come out of it just aren't that snug. So this was always a little bit of a wobbly construction here, and maybe still just a little bit too fine given the bulk of the mech otherwise. So I did spend some time and came up with what I think is a pretty nice redesign. So I ditched these random mud guards on the bottom here because they weren't really doing anything, and I used a different kind of mud guard to create kind of an encapsulated look there on the barrel, and still using a lot of snot work to get these sports curves on the top and the bottom, and various other things there. So that was just a fun thing that I did while working on this rework, because I figured if I'm gonna rewire this whole mech, I may as well do some redesign along the way. So there's the new cannon, and that fits actually underneath the rocket pod there, just on that little mixel joint. So the rocket pod itself, which is the main thing we wanted to talk about here. What's funny is when I built the Scavrette destroyer right over here, I actually built the rocket pod based off of a Sisterhood rocket pod, and the idea was that they had basically scavenged the tech from a fallen mech there. And I did put the sensor light on the side here, like I was talking about wanting to, but obviously this one isn't lit yet, although it will be someday. So the kind of style is already established there, and I did figure out how I'm going to do this. So on the Seraph rocket pod here, there's actually just this little detail here under this ingot that is a perfect spot to put that sensor light. So there's just one stud there that I can work with, and the setup I came up with is this. So let's see if we can get all the details here. So this is, I'll pull this off for now. This is a, this is a Bionicle eye in just a 1x1 round brick, really blurry. And basically here is the Light My Bricks LED. So really I'm just gonna shove it in there. And what this is going to do when it's on is it's going to create a pretty dim light. See, there it is on right there. You can mostly see it at the back, but you can notice it on the front. And what's nice about this is I wouldn't want the sensor to be crazy bright. It's not a headlight or anything, so it actually gives me just the amount of light I would want. So the thing with lighting is you always are going to need to cover up that light bleed, right? So I've got this 1x2 rounded plate here. That's mounted on a tile with clip, and then a 1x1 plate with handle here. So what I'm gonna do, let's do it down here, is, so I'm gonna shove this light in and then seal it up here. And what I wanna do to prevent light leak and also to hold in this wire, if you can see it right there, is just use a 1x1 round plate, like that, and that does double duty there. So when I turn this on, you can see there's no more light leak from the back, and it holds that wire in place. So that's pretty good for the sensor there, and all we're gonna do is mount it right here where just that little ingot used to be. So I'll put it right like that, pretty snug, and that's how it's gonna fit. So this is how it's gonna look on, pretty nice. Now obviously I talked about how we have to route it through the shoulder, which conveniently has a radar dish with a hole, and then it's going to go through. I've now replaced the 2x4 plate with a 2x4 Technic plate with a hole, and eventually that'll make its way into the torso. So the problem I had here was the original mount was just using this kind of unconventional 1x2 Technic brick with holes, which was then connecting to the shoulder like that. So I have to come up with something else so that I can wire this all the way through. So let me quickly disconnect this and I'll show you what I came up with. Okay, so here's the wire. So really what we want to do here is kind of loop it through where we can. Now the nice thing about these wires is they're so thin that they do navigate pretty well around rounded plates, in particular rounded bricks. So really I can just kind of sneak this up through here and then past this other round brick, past this round brick here. But obviously I'm gonna have to come up with something different here because if I was to route it through one of these holes, it would stick up a little bit past these studs if I was to then navigate it into the middle, because the wire would actually come out slightly and then through. And that can work elsewhere on your designs, but if it's something like a horizontal mount that needs to be really strong, it's not really going to work out. So I was thinking, well, how can I attach this so that it's really just a single hole into a single hole? And I found these older brackets in my parts bins. Of course, I found one black one and one light gray one, so I'm gonna have to go scavenging. But the idea here is I can take this, and what I'll do is I'll just remove this mount here altogether. And let's see, remove the side part here. And then basically what I'll have to do is, let's try this again. Just do something like that. And then this wire can go right through like that. And then like this. And that's basically how it's gonna work. So it goes all the way through there. You know, it's kind of tucked away, you can barely see it, so it's nice and subtle. And then it's gonna go through here, and I should be able to basically use some, again, rounded plates or bricks at this point to kind of wind it through so it can make it through to the hole without being too cramped. And at that point, I'm really just gonna have to do a little bit of work to maybe add another plate layer here so I can bring all the missiles forward. And then basically that's gonna go through like this. So again, this wire is going to go all the way through like that. It's like sewing. And then this will just connect onto here. And that's basically how this is going to work. So light, wire, lots of routing around and around and around using parts that have holes in them all the way through, and then that will fit nicely into the torso. So let's finish this off and I'll be right back. There we go. So I basically beefed up the whole thing by a plate there to fit this bracket. And what I've done is I've fitted in these 1x1 round plates that the wire snakes around through nicely. And then just take my new capping piece, pop that right on top, and we're done. So there is my new rocket pod with lighting, and with a nicely redesigned, oh, that's the old one, with a nicely redesigned cannon. Let's get that on there. There we go. All right, step one complete.